Welcome to State of Affairs. Tonight we are talking football, and not just about the players, but those who manage the game when it comes to the countries. And so in Africa, very few women tend to take up this role. We can talk about Burundi's Lydia Nsekura. She's no longer there. Izetta Wesley of Liberia. But currently, there's only one woman who is occupying such a role on the continent. And I'm referring to no other but Johansen of Sierra Leone. And she's our guest tonight on State of Affairs. My name is Abena, OWUSU Nyamekye. You are welcome to the program. And let me welcome my guest, Johansen. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
It's your second time on the show.
Yes, it is, actually.
Yes. And what brings you to Ghana this time?
We're actually having our CAF Executive Committee meeting and to do implementation with regards to the governance of football in Africa. And this particular executive meeting will actually be talking, one of the top of the agenda will be for a women's symposium, the first CAF Women's Symposium. So that's going to be very exciting. I'm looking forward to it. And as the chairman of the Women's Committee in CAF, I've put together a proposal and, which I hope will be endorsed. So,
can you let us in on just a bit of what the proposal was?
I shouldn't really be doing that, but basically what it is it is the first. And a lot of people, a lot of women, increasingly a number of women in Africa in sports administration, in football administration, ex-footballers, men and women in the African continent, you know, they ask, you know, why don't you do this, why don't you do that, or why is it that female football is lagging behind in the African continent with so much talent as opposed to the rest of the world. So we're actually taking on board all of these suggestions and making a proposal. And I was very happy and privileged to have just come back from FIFA, to have worked with the General Secretary of FIFA, who's a woman, and the head of the football department in FIFA, and the rest of the clan. So we put together a template, and we're going to, and I'm going to make some suggestions and a proposal.
And you being a woman in charge of football in Sierra Leone, do you feel hemmed in any way in the discharge of your duties?
Do I feel hindered?
Yeah.
Of course, lots of challenges. You only have to look at what has happened recently. That's just, it's not even the icing on the cake, because you can expect that there are even more challenges, or worst is yet to come. I think a woman in everyday walk of life, any woman that dares to cross the barriers in any field is up for lots of challenges and lots of hindrances. And football, being a male-dominated industry, is even more difficult. So yes, I do. I mean, they're countless. And, you know, as we go on, I realize that, you know, there are even more challenges that I had envisaged. But, you know,
and it's all because of your gender?
Well, it's not all because of my gender, but, you know, increasingly I've now started to realize that gender plays a big part. I never ever wanted to accept that because I never looked at myself as a gender candidate. You know, I grew up with boys. I've never worked with women. I didn't grow up with women. My father's my best friend. My brothers were my best friends, and their friends were my best friends, you know. So, you know, I've never looked at myself as, oh, I'm the only woman and treat me differently. But increasingly now, as you get higher up and you're trying to make an entry into the business with your own individual thoughts, it becomes evidently clear that it's because of the gender mostly. But then again, if you're driving what I'm trying to drive, governance and other things, you know, it's that. But I think it makes it, in the African continent, it makes it difficult where it's a woman trying to drive good governance, or trying to stamp out corruption, or trying to enforce integrity, or trying to introduce best practice or ethics. All of these things that means compliance is more difficult when it's a woman trying to enforce that, especially if it's in a male industry. So yeah.
It's interesting you say you're trying to stamp out corruption, because then you've been indicted, you are in the news, you are being accused of abuse of office, corruption. So how then do we balance the two? Because then you're telling me you're trying to bring good governance in Sierra Leonean football, and good governance, where is it?
So how do you know that these are the charges? Because I don't even know what my charges are. You know,
well,
so obviously
that's what is out there.
Okay. Well, hey, listen. I declared 2 days ago. Oh, well, now it's 72 hours. But and I predicted that on the BBC and CNN and Reuters and the other international media houses that I envisaged that there's going to be a backlash after declaring. But even I didn't know or realize that it'll be so soon. So I guess I'm beginning to understand my environment even more than I think. You know, it's becoming even more predictable. With regards to corrupt, yes, you know, my champagne corrupts me. I have my lifestyle that I'm totally, absolutely addicted and corrupted by. Look, I always say this: I'm no saint.
Okay.
But I think our story has got to change in Sierra Leone. You are Ghanaian. We look at Ghana, we look at Nigeria, we look at all the other different African countries. We all have the same problems: poverty, cultural issues, ethnical divides, all of these socio-economical problems that arise in Africa and the challenges. But what is it that makes Ghana, for instance, different to Sierra Leone? It's because there comes a time where you draw the line and you actually put your country first. So, you know, so when I say I want to stamp out corruption, of course I'm not that naive to really believe that I will be the one, the savior, to change Sierra Leone or to change football or corruption in football. Of course not. All I'm asking for is decades and decades and decades and decades of decadence and bad practice, lack of integrity, all the structures that we all know is what we need to apply for growth and development. If it hasn't worked for 30, 40 years, for goodness sakes, let us try another way. I am a pioneer for change.
So what are some of the things you identified in trying to reform the Sierra Leonean football, as you say? Because if you're trying to bring change, if I understand what you mean, some people will resist it. What are some of the things you identified?
You know, for instance, basically, credit by merit. Put the right people in the right places. Those who deserve, be they players, be they administrators, be they whoever, let the right people who deserve to be in the right positions, give them the opportunity. That is one. Let the youth be able to develop as youth. It isn't a question of win by all means. You only succeed when you prepare. Ghana, look at you now. Look at your female side. Look at your Ghanaian side. It didn't happen overnight. I mean, there was a time when you guys wanted to win. You wanted it all. But then reality has to kick in. And what is that reality? Give best practice. Give peace a chance. Forget about your differences. Forget about, it's not an Aisha rule. It is just a reality. And the reality is Sierra Leoneans and Sierra Leone and Sierra Leone football, we are nowhere. We've got fantastic, talented footballers in all sections. But let us start from the basics. Let us start governance. Give governance a chance. Give best practice a chance. There are so many people out there, out of Sierra Leone, within Sierra Leone, with the right environment, they can contribute. But you know, when you start to bring in politics and beyond politics and all sorts of different, you start to introduce all kinds of different factors and factions into the football, it isn't healthy, and that's not what football is about. So, you know, it's a very basic, simple philosophy, really, and I don't think it's one that applies just to football. I think it's across the board. Let us sit back identify what our problems are and put the right people in the right places and exercise the correct practice towards that, you know, the ethical and practice that we should, you know. So
you mentioned that after declaring your intention to contest again, you expected that something like this will emerge, the allegations that are out there, and people are talking. So right now the news is not that Aisha has decided to contest again, but the Anti-Corruption Commission, as you call it in Sierra Leone, they are requesting that you meet them on these allegations. We understand you were invited yesterday, or was it 2 days ago?
Well, like I said, I don't know anything about that. They haven't
heard anything from them?
But I have heard from my lawyers, I've heard from my general secretary, I've heard from my executive members. Very unfortunate that Sierra Leone should always be there. Whenever there is an opportunity for Sierra Leone to shine and have a good news story, have a positive story, have a story where the outside world changes its perception about Sierra Leone, there are always those within the country who do their utmost best to darken and dampen that perception. It's very, very sad, you know, and I have now come to definitely realize and affirm that we are our own worst enemies, really. You know, forget about Ebola, forget about everything else. I think we actually do a very good job of painting a very bleak picture about Sierra Leone and Sierra Leoneans, which is really unfortunate. So yes, it was received very well, my declaration, but I declared because I felt that I needed more time to complete what it was that I'd started. And after 1 year's silence from the anti-corruption, I was arrested on the 7th of September last year. I was released the next day with no charges. I actually went to a few interviews at the anti-corruption, and that was it.
And a year on, the developments are coming.
And 48 hours after I declared, I was declared a very corrupt woman who has got to go to court the next month. So,
are you a corrupt woman?
Well, I just said, you know, I'm very corrupted by my champagne and
are you corrupt?
Fashion.
We know that if you your champagne comes in and then
you know, it's a shame because you don't want to start blowing your own horn. I think I've been in this business with football administration for 14 going on 15 years. There's a famous name in football here called Alhaji Slide Tete, and this man is a very close person to me. He's actually my football guru. I have two gurus in my life. Apart from my father being my best friend and my role model, there's Chief Dele Momodu, Ovation.
Nigeria.
He's my overall big-time guru. He inspires me greatly every day. There's the late Slide Tete, and he took me through the paces of football, and I emulated his works with Liberty Professionals, and we did a lot of work and interaction together. In fact, the day that he died, he actually missed his flight to Sierra Leone to watch Sierra Leone versus Egypt in one of the AFCON qualifiers, and then he went to play a match, and then he dropped dead on the pitch. So that's how close we were. So back to your question.
You've been in office since 2013?
So I've been, you know, so this business of are you corrupt? The amount of money, time, energy, and when I say energy, I'm talking about as a mother, nurturing young boys from the ages of 9. Boys that today are one of the best players that you see in the first team for the Leone Stars. And Leone Stars, by the way, is no small underdog team. You wait when we meet.
We are looking forward to that.
Okay, so you will see them performing, and it is of such pride as a mother, as a mentor, to see that my boys over the space of 15 years have grown so much. They have actually chased their dream. They're realizing their dream. There's nothing better than that. You know, African International Youth Tournament, where Ghana, your under 20, participated in 2010, and in 2009 Liberty went there, played against teams from Norway, Brazil. These are all things that myself, my husband did single-handedly, you know. So when you say corrupt, I mean, I don't know corrupt in which way.
Have you misused public funds? The funds of the Sierra Leone people?
I'm owed a lot of funds. And like I said, it's not in my nature, it's not my upbringing to, you know, flaunt and to talk about this. But I've sunk in a considerable amount of money, and I challenge anyone in Sierra Leone to match what I've put into football. Financially, physically, mentally, resource-wise, everything. I will openly challenge that. But that's besides the point. People will say what they want to say. And if the anti-corruption believes I am corrupt, their definition of corruption, we're in court next month. So.
Yeah, on the 30th of October. What are you going back to Sierra Leone? And when I say back to Sierra Leone, I mean to these whole set of allegations and investigations. What is the posture that you are going back to your country with?
It's the pressure that I've lived with for 4 years. You know, I mean, I don't want anybody to be under the impression that I'm overwhelmed by what is going on now or what has been said yesterday, because I live this. I've lived this for 4 years, every day, continuously.
How's your family taking all this?
Not very well. Not very well, and I feel extremely guilty, very, very bad. And if there is any anger and bitterness in me about what is going on, the only one thing that I feel very, very bad about is how and why anybody would look at, be it a woman, be it a man, how people can openly hurt other people and elderly people and destroy lives like this, you know, knowing fully well that these are lies. This is a smear campaign. This is because you want to hurt, you want to embarrass, you want to bring down that person. And first of all, you know that the person is too strong to hurt. But what about those behind that person? Like my parents, we're Africans at the end of the day. And no mother, no father, and I'm
Your
blessed.
Children?
I'm blessed, and my son, to see the abuse that's been rained on his mother. My husband, to see the abuse being rained on his wife. You know, my father, his daughter. My mother, her daughter. You know, I think that is cruel. I think it is so improper. It is very, very unfortunate, and that is a sadness that I really do feel. And I feel sadness. Yesterday was one of the saddest days. I actually spoke to my mother just before coming. I couldn't bear to speak to her. I still haven't spoken to my dad.
Have you spoken to your son?
Yeah, I had to, because...
what did he say to you?
He's like, Mama, as long as you're safe. You know, his exact words were, Mama, I know you, I know what's going on, as long as you're safe. And I just needed to hear that, and as soon as I heard his voice and I heard those words, I was good to go. You know, so I know that he's okay. My father I'll speak to later on, but I made sure other people were able to speak to him. I couldn't bring myself to speak to my mother yesterday, but luckily my brother was there. Because everybody was calling her, and the poor woman, you know, she was running and scrambling to look at, you know, what's happening in the news. She lives in England, you know. And I spoke to her today, and I made her comfortable, and, you know, of course I'm laughing a lot, so she knows that I'm fine. So, you know, if I'm laughing, and even though I'm pretending, I do that to make her relax. And, you know, I'll deal with my father's situation, but I find that very disheartening. It's not warranted. It doesn't have to be that way at all.
You're watching State of Affairs on GH1 television. My name is Abena OWUSU Nyamekye. Tonight our guest is the president of the Sierra Leone Football Association, Aisha Johansen. We're taking a break. We will be back. Do stay with us.
Hi, I'm Kitty. You probably know me as MTN Hitmaker winner and a singer. But there's a lot more to me. Like playing the guitar. I love photography. I've got mad skills. And I'm also a world-class chef.
Be all the shades of you. Download and register on the MTN Pulse app from the Google Play Store. Mash up your Pulse bundle and connect to the things you love the most.
Be more, Charlie. Just be.
MTN Pulse. Just be.
Dad! Mom! Dad! Mom! I passed my PC!
So proud of you. Wow. Stephanie, it's a good thing you passed your examination.
Nee,
Yes.
I think we have to take her to Auntie Rose, the seamstress, so that she'll learn how to sew.
Yes.
Nana Adodankwa Akufo-Addo, His Excellency, has put his campaign promise of free SHS into motion.
Hello. Come on, young lady. Out of the gutter.
Look, so you haven't heard about the free SHS that the president himself talked about. It has taken effect from now. It is free tuition, free boarding and lodging, free 3 square meals per day and 1 hot meal if you are a day student. Free SHS.
Free SHS. Free SHS.
Sasso Beba Who Bang. It's a different iron hot. We're going to cut and pass in the corners. Sasso near some conso, back you in Yama. We're going to cut and pass in the corners. Sasso near some conso, back you in Yama. Sasso Beba Who Bang. It's a different.
Sasu. Comentum preko.
Hi, I'm Kitty. You probably know me as MTN Hitmaker winner and a singer. But there's a lot more to me. Like playing the guitar. I love photography. I've got mad skills. And I'm also a world-class chef.
Be all the shades of you. Download and register on the MTN Pulse app from the Google Play Store. Mash up your Pulse bundle and connect to the things you love the most.
Be more, Charlie. Just be.
MTN Pulse. Just be.
Find it, jack it, try it, feel it, move it, pop it, rock it, Gangnam it, dap it, oops it. Master Pass it. Vanishing in a beat, priceless. Introducing MasterPass QR, a new way to pay from MasterCard. Using your mobile banking app, scan the merchant's QR code, enter the amount to pay, followed by your PIN. The merchant receives confirmation, and you're done. Ask your bank about MasterPass QR.
Hi, I'm Kitty. You probably know me as MTN Hitmaker winner and a singer. But there's a lot more to me. Like playing the guitar. I love photography. I've got mad skills. And I'm also a world-class chef.
Be all the shades of you. Download and register on the MTN Pulse app from the Google Play Store. Mash up your Pulse bundle and connect to the things you love the most.
Be more, Charlie. Just be.
MTN Pulse. Just be.
You're welcome back This is State of Affairs on GH1 TV, and we are continuing our conversation with the president of the Sierra Leone Football Association, Aisha Johansen. And before we went for the break, we were talking about the allegations, corruption allegations and all that. Let's now take you back to when you were first elected as president of the Sierra Leone Football Association. What did you come in with?
Myself, I was a walking billboard. Actually, FC Johansen was a walking billboard. That's what I campaigned with. I wasn't like the others who went on a finger-pointing campaign. Look at what this person did. Look at what that person did. This person is to blame. That person, blah. I simply came with, this is who I am.
Your football club and the success story.
And this is the success story. This is what I've done. FC Johansen's story is one about success above the odds. It's giving young kids a dream and to chase the dream and to realize that dream. And I promised, and I said that my aim was to actually realize and replicate that dream on a national level. And that dream entailed good governance, structures, sanity, integrity. Unfortunately, I'm struggling with the integrity, trying to replicate that and enforce that nationally. But, you know, that's what made FC Johansen the success story that it was from its conception in 2004. So that was the energy. And, you know, the energy I still have. It's just that I am more realistic. I have grown because that energy comes with what we were just talking about, the challenges, political challenges, and, you know, all the different challenges. And politics, not just national politics, even international politics. You know, you actually start to learn, you grow a lot more. So so the energy is still the same, but just a lot more matured now.
Do you regret?
No, none whatsoever. You know, I would do it again. In fact, I'm doing it again. That's why I applied the second time, you know. I have no regrets. In fact, I'm better off now because I now know more than I knew before. Before, I was just an administrator for a club, a founder, and I was there focusing on my boys and but now I'm actually at a national and international level, so no regrets whatsoever.
A year after you took office, that was 2014, Sierra Leone was it 40th or 50th? I'm saying a year after.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, Sierra Leone ranked 50th, and now you're somewhere 94th.
Yes, actually, you know, the match against the OWUSU one here, we plummeted quite a bit, you know, which was a bit of a shame because I didn't watch that match. I was actually airborne, but just today, you know, a lot of people were complimenting the boys, saying that, you know, it's very clear that it's just lack of a training and the experience and what have you. But we held our game, and we were quite an impressive side.
What would you say to somebody who say, oh, Aisha, so far your administration, you've just contributed to the decline of the country's fortunes when it comes to football?
Well, the country doesn't have any fortunes, apparently. You know, we don't have any money. Misfortunes, maybe, if that's what you're trying to say. But and these kind of comments come from the usual suspects, Who are those? The usual suspects are the aggrieved or the so-called stakeholders in football who are opposed to my leadership. And if you were to put them down and ask them, forget about all the spite and the malice, what has she done that has brought the decline of Sierra Leone football? They will tell you that it's good governance. You know, she has eradicated the notion of it's business as usual. That business as usual is the corruption. That business of usual is the allegations of trafficking, be it human trafficking, be it narcotics, you know, be it the match fixing, all of these allegations. And I say allegations because I have never been privy to that. You know, if these things happened, they happened not in my tenure. And if they did happen, it certainly was not going to be encouraged in my tenure. So
you were talking about how you're trying to sort of restructure the Football Association in Sierra Leone. You mentioned good governance, but yet the team is not doing so well. The World Cup qualifiers, you were kicked out in an early stage. So then what exactly are you doing? Structural, but it doesn't reflect.
If the team hasn't done so well, it should not come as any surprise to anyone.
Right.
The mere fact that the team performed at all is actually an absolutely fantastic achievement. Bearing in mind, we're talking about a 4-year term for any football president tenure. And in that 4 years, you had 2 years of Ebola, where there was no football.
Yeah.
But even in that period, I insisted, and mind you, with absolutely no government support, because, you know, I had a Minister of Sports then who decided he wasn't going to give any money, and, you know, we had all our battles with them, and government didn't. But we insisted, I insisted, that we would not be stigmatized, and the boys will play, Sierra Leone will be represented. And so for people to say that we didn't perform well, no, well, it's not surprising we didn't perform well, but we performed, and we played. And for those who watched the African nations qualifiers in those years, 2014, 2015, I think that we were absolutely remarkable. And to give a country like Ivory Coast a real good run for their money is saying something, given the circumstances. So, you know, all these things, all these criticism, why is football not playing internally? It's because the Premier Leagues, 80% of them have decided to boycott. They don't have any money for themselves. We give them money. Recently, we've given them money. They take the money. They still don't play. I call that theft. I don't know what anybody else defines it as. When you ask for money to support you for something, you take it and
do not perform,
or you've utilized it, or you don't perform. Now that's corruption. That's what I call it, and I call it theft and corruption. And I think it is really, really bad for the players, because at the end of the day, it's these boys who suffer. It's not the administrators. They don't care. They have somewhere else to go and look for money. But the boys who are really meant, who the money's meant for, and it's for their progress and development, they get to suffer, and it really isn't fair. These are the stories that will never come out, but this is the reality on the ground. And like I said, I think, you know, in life, sometimes things need to get really, really bad before they get better. And Sierra Leone football is synonymous with strife and mayhem and problems, and I think we've gotten to that stage where it's gotten so bad that it needs to get this bad for it to get better, and I'm prepared for that.
And so the Ebola and the corruption allegations, do you think all of that have marred your tenure?
But of course, 2 years of Ebola. You know, we have two sets of unfortunate catastrophes. We have the man-made, the boycotts, the aggrieved, the what have you, you know, the anti-Aishas, or whatever you want to call them. They've got different, they come up with different tags all the time. And you have the unfortunate, unforeseeable events like the Ebola. And these are the situations that it's been unfortunate for the FA. We've had to contend with that. So I've actually had only like a year and a half to perform. And let me just add, before I end, that in all of this, we have been able to have coaches, both men and women. We have big African nations that cannot boast of having A-licensed coaches. We have those. We've been able to go through that. We've got B-licensed coaches, C. We've got men and women. We have women A-licensed coaches. We have women referees. We have our first CAF female instructor. We have a female league now, a national league. We've just gone, the first time Sierra Leone's had a female international match in Morocco. And we've come home with what, a 2-1 loss compared to the 10-0s and the 9-0s. Now that's saying something. For me, that is progress. That is light at the end of the tunnel. Despite all of the negatives that you see, we don't just sit down and say, oh my goodness, woe unto us, look at what I'm going through. look at the problems, we can't progress. No, we have to. We have to. And the hope is that with all of this that is happening, that maybe people will one day realize that, look, this is not all about Aisha, and it isn't all about whoever it is that wants to occupy my seat or supports whoever wants to occupy my seat. It's about 7 million people, and it's not about 7 people.
And so the man-made issues that you talk about, the anti-Aishas.
You like that, don't you?
I like that. The anti-Aishas, as you'd want to call them. Don't you think you give them something to be able to say that, okay, we think Aisha is corrupt?
I think Sierra Leoneans, we have a tendency to label people and to brand people without, because, you know, you put it this way, being called a prostitute on, you know, on national TV and being able to get away with it, and being able to sit down and say this woman's a prostitute, and that same person is able to run for a political position or to be able to sit in very high places and speak for and on behalf of national football without being brought to book or questioned, and nobody writes about it, nobody questions. It just shows you the extent of the impunity in our society.
And so you give them nothing. Nothing for people
nothing. Put it this way.
There's something fishy.
Yeah, put it this way. Anybody can get up and say what they want about anybody. Speak with impunity, and very little will be done about it. So if they say Aisha is corrupt,
it's
a sing-song. Aisha is absolutely categorically not corrupt. I've told you, I will be the first to tell you what has corrupted me. I've got my own personal vices, and that's me. I fund that. Okay, so I don't need to go into any taxpayers' money. Do we get any money from the government? Zero. Not a single red cent have we got from the government, ever. The government does not.
Yet you're being accused of misuse of public funds.
Have we helped the government in the past? I think it'll be very interesting when the hearing opens to see how we have helped. Is the government owing the FA, or is owing Aisha Johansen personally? It's going to be very interesting to see that.
Is the government owing Aisha Johansen?
It's going to be come to Sierra Leone and listen to the hearing. It's going to be interesting the next couple of days. And like I said, sometimes it takes for things to get very bad before they get better. I think with yesterday's talk of the anti-corruption, I felt a great sense of relief, believe it or not. A lot of people thinking that I'd be sobbing. No, I was absolutely relieved, because like I said to a CNN reporter yesterday, that finally, I believe that my story will be told. And it's not Aisha's story, it's the real story will be told.
Come October 30th, at the hearing?
The story starts from now. You know, I haven't been doing interviews, and I don't talk about the controversies surrounding my arrest a year ago and what has been happening before and during that time, simply because it was under investigation. Now that we have been charged, I think I'll be able now to start to speak. And after, I certainly will be able to speak. So I feel a great sense of relief. I don't think I look like somebody who's
well,
despondent.
You don't look it.
No, because I'm not. I'm very relieved. I really am. I was really waiting for this, you know, being under investigation.
In the midst of all these investigations and allegations, don't you think it is a fine opportunity for you to step aside for another person, a fresh face, to contest the FA seat in Sierra Leone?
Under why? Because I'm under a lot of pressure. Leaders don't quit. There are two types of people in this world. There are those who make history and those who are part of making history. I've made history, and I'm also part of making history in Africa. Okay, so for me, I consider myself to be a pioneer for change, for women leaders, women like you. I don't think you have the kind of problems that I have. Thank God for you, bless you. You know, but
well, problems they come in different forms.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah,
but there are so many. There are so many young women, girls that I know that I've inspired. Girls
we'll come back to talk about how you've been nurturing young women within your tenure. But it's time for us to take another break, and so we will be back with more. Do stay with us.
Thank you.
You don't love me as you claim you do.
You're taking this thing too. Shut up and listen to me.
Everywhere I touch, sold in the market at OWUSU Empire as the goat.
Appointee. Do you know the counsel of the Lord will always stand?
Is this my phone? God help us.
God help us.
Don't lie to me!
Now everybody get out from the car at once. Get out, get out, get out.
And no matter what the enemy does, the Lord will always protect his own.
You're welcome back to the program State of Affairs on GH1 TV. My name is Abena Nyamekye, and tonight we're talking of football. We've been talking football for some minutes now, and our guest is still with us, Johansen, the president of the Sierra Leone Football Association. And we get to the last part of the interview, the last part of the whole conversation, and somebody says it's the knockout part. I don't know about that, but we'll see how it goes. So, talking about your legacy within this 4-year tenure, if this is it for you in the helm of affairs as president of the Sierra Leone Football Association, what is the one thing that you can point to?
I think it's the growth and development of female coaches, referees in our football, the introduction of women's female inclusivity into our football. I think it's also the growth, the development of the Sierra Leone national team. We had some older players whom we incorporated and we used for the first maybe year, and that had its problems. You know, there was a lot of political and the struggles, the squabbles came into that. But once we got settled, especially after Ebola, we started to mix the home-based teams and some of our outside professionals, and even professionals people never used to call. It's the development of our first team. It's also the development of our home-based team. I am so all about focusing at home. You know, I was talking just earlier on today, about our female teams and why is it that they don't progress further than a certain round, you know, when they get to the international competitions. Well, it's simply because they don't play as a team.
Okay.
You know, if you're able to develop your own home-based team and they play as a team day in, day out, they're much more better coordinated than, you know, whenever there's an international competition, you have to call in everybody left, right and center. So I also find, I mean, there are things like the refurbishment of our secretariat, but for me that's not a legacy. The legacy is the impact. How do you impact and empower your football administrators and your field marshals?
And have you done that?
Yes. And like I said to you, that, you know, never before have you seen this increase, this rise of women in the football, the game, as administrators, you know, our referees, our coaches, an instructor, even the female side. Never before have we've never had a female national league, really. You know, so all of these developments, forget about the PR and the ambassadorial role that I do for Sierra Leone outside. It's never happened before. You know, my legacy as being the first Sierra Leonean to be an executive in CAF you know, or the first female FA president in Sierra Leone. That's a personal thing, really. You know, I don't consider that as a legacy. The legacy is what I leave behind and I impact on the youth and the others that we're bringing up. So, and this is what I want to improve on in the next 4 years.
Based on your experience, would you encourage other women to take up such positions in football management? I'd
encourage other women to take up positions in any field of top management, in any area, especially the no-go zone barriers, you know, male industries, whether it's you know, whatever, you know, that is predominantly a male. I would encourage, don't say because you're a woman that means you cannot achieve. Yes, you can, is the word, you know. That is what I just so happen to be in football, but my story resonates with those in, you know, the aviation business and the engineering business, you know, in motor industry, whatever industry is dominated by men, my story resonates, you know, even in the banking industry, even in, you know, other professions where you see that women are there, my story resonates. But in football, we are noisy, you know, and you know, everybody knows about it, so that's perhaps why. But I would encourage young girls in particular, young African girls, to be able to come out of their cocoon and break the cultural and the religious and the ethnical barriers, break those barriers. I'm a Muslim, and I'm sure if you look at me, the last thing you'd think is that I'm Muslim. Forget about my name. You know, you'd never believe that I say my surahs and I can pray and I can read the Quran. You know, so I don't have to start wearing things and, you know, to show that I'm a Muslim. I break barriers, you know, but I am a Muslim.
And you're very strong. What keeps you going?
It's just a faith commitment. You know, you've got to be true first to yourself as to why you are really doing what you're doing. I'm in it, not just to win it, but why am I really in it? You know, is it because I want to be seen to be in it, or is it because I really want to be in it? And if you really want to be in it, you will actually make your own rules and you will actually create your own space, your own image, your own brand, and do things differently. And I guess perhaps that's why I'm facing the kind of challenges that I'm facing, because I have created a brand and I'm doing it my own way. Not because I want to be dictatorial, but I want to make a change, a difference, and I'm asking people to give me the chance to make that change and make that difference. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, you know, but give me a chance. Give me a chance, give me the platform to try to make it work and to make that change. And then if it doesn't work, it would not be because I wasn't given a chance.
We'll soon wrap up, but let's now talk a bit about Ghana, since you're in Ghana. Let's talk about Ghana football. What do you think of our Football Association and the Black Stars qualifying for the World Cup? It's now, we are in the danger zone, but what do you think?
I think you guys are just a fabulous, fabulous side. Honestly, I am biased, and I'm not ashamed to say that I'm biased. I'm biased to two African countries, and that's Ghana and Nigeria. I've just told you that my guru in football is the late Alhaji Sly Tete. Every time I come here and every time I go to the FA and every time I'm around footballers, I'm very emotional because I miss him so much. And we're going to his, and I know that I'm going to bawl my eyes out today. He was just an absolutely great guy. I think you guys have come a long way. I think your head and hearts are in the right places. Of course, you have your challenges, you have problems, the typical problems, but the beauty about Ghanaians and the difference that, between Ghanaians and Sierra Leoneans, you know when to draw the line, when to stop thinking about me and put country first. That is true patriotism. And I like that about Ghana. And I think the female side also, you're always a beauty and a pride to watch. But again, Africa has its problems. And problems are structures. And this is what, and I know that you are addressing these issues. It'll take time, but it'll happen. Your chances at qualifying, your chances have always been great. But football being what it is, you can never tell. But you do prepare. You prepare well. You know, you have your squabbles, and I've also learned that you guys are so very passionate when it comes to your football.
We are. Yes, we are.
Everybody is a Mourinho. And more. In fact, Mourinho does not even Mourinho does not even qualify. You know, when it comes to Ghanaian observers, coaches, you guys have all got A+ license. So yes, and it's fantastic to see the passion here. I think we use Ghana and Nigeria as a yardstick in Sierra Leone. You know, yes, we do, and I wish you all the best as always. When we don't go, we don't qualify. We look to Ghana, we look to Nigeria, because you are our neighbours, you are the big brothers, you are, and Kwesi, your president, he's just a big brother and a great friend.
And people think
ally.
he's been in office for some time. He just needs to exit for a fresh face.
Well, you know, yes and no.
Does it really matter?
No, I think that change is good, but if what is there is serving your purpose and is doing the right things for you, what your country deserves and needs, then fine. But you know, if it is on the decline, if he's overstayed his welcome, then I think Kwesi himself, being the man that I know, would definitely feel, you know, it's time to exit. But if you don't have an alternative, why not stay with what you have and improve on that? That is my own personal take. But change for me and for Kwesi and for the likes of Pinnick and all the other great CAF members and for the president, change is good. Change is needed.
We're wrapping it all up. What is the thing that you would want to say to anybody watching, to Sierra Leoneans, as you try to get another nod, as you try to run for office again in the midst of all these allegations that you face?
First of all, I'm very saddened. I'm very disheartened. I'm very embarrassed. Embarrassed not for me, but embarrassed for the country, that in the midst of really trying to put Sierra Leone at the top, and for the good reasons, somehow we manage to blur that, and we're back in the news again for something not pleasant. I think that we deserve better as Sierra Leoneans. It is not, never has been about Aisha. It is about the country. You know, for me, it's all about the country. I think we should give peace a chance. I think we should put the country first. And you don't have to like Aisha at all, but respect and like and support what it is that Aisha wants to bring for the country. So it is what it is. It's unfortunate. I'm happy to be on your show. We don't really talk about the what has got to happen next month. I think it's not a good time. It isn't a good time, and it shouldn't be happening. So hopefully we will reconsider what we really want. So yeah.
And would love to host you again on the show.
I would love to come back again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Glad you joined us.
Thanks very much.
And that was my guest for today, Aisha Johansen. She's the president of the Football Association in Sierra Leone. That's all we have for you on State of Affairs tonight. My name is Abena OWUSU Nyamekye. Thanks to the team, and thank you too for watching. Have a good night.